So I'm here with Denise to continue the series of short documentaries about the various issues which arose following the appalling gang rape of her daughter. And Denise, we're here now to talk about the question of the police and how they handled this. Now obviously you've already said that you haven't been happy at all with the handling. Were you happy to start with? Has it got the problem or was it wrong from the start?
It's been a error upon error on 40 weeks of errors.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when did you first realise that they weren't getting this right?
The day my daughter raised the alarm, because my husband was handed a pink bit of paper, which I find very unprofessional. No card with the police force, a number, just with the log reference of the crime. Which this crime particularly happened on a Friday, so much so by the Tuesday I'd still not seen a police officer.
So your daughter was gang raped and the police officers
nobody
come to you?
Nobody came to see us.
For the whole weekend? For
the whole weekend. And from the Friday, I'd spoken to various police officers on the phone because as a mother I constantly phoned them. On the following Tuesday, so day 5, I then went to the police station in the morning, screaming, crying, demanding somebody come out to see me and explain what has gone on. She was 16.
Yes.
Still a minor, a schoolgirl. And
so, obviously, you've got a right to be deeply unhappy about that. And I think the fact that they're not talking to you, they're not getting part of the picture. Beginning, and the police always say, it's always said on the crime things anyway, it's the first 24 hours of the golden period. So were they, while they're clearly unsatisfactory in dealing with you and the family, were they at least on top of the issue, dealing with your daughter with DNA tests, with the hospital visit and so on?
No, not at all. On the second day, after my daughter gave video evidence, she then told me that the police were coming back 9 o'clock that evening to take her back to the hospital for more DNA testing. It got to 10 o'clock that evening. I then phoned up the police to find out where they were. They arrived at 11:15 that evening to collect my daughter and brought her back at 3 o'clock in the morning with a Nightingale officer, police officer, who I'm told is like trained in that area of support, that then told me that my daughter had been vaginally raped at 3 o'clock on the Sunday morning.
So how long did the police manage to leave between finding out that had happened and actually getting her to the test?
She reported the vaginal rape on the Saturday afternoon. She was collected that evening and taken to the hospital for the DNA, which since has been sent off forensics and it's come back. But the other part I'm appalled at is the forensics of where the incident took place. They took, the CSI unit went and took various articles out of the room, towels, bedding, be it cigarettes, be it ashtrays, whatever, drink cans, whatever, a mobile phone top-up card. None of those have been sent off for DNA. When I've raised the question many times and had to fight it, I was told it's because of lack of resources and it doesn't prove rape.
So several points arise from that then. First of all, have they now finally sent those items off? The towel, I know the towels which they wiped themselves on, you told me they didn't send off.
They didn't send them off, or the bedding.
So how long did it take before they
38 weeks.
38 weeks. So in that time they were saying to you that if you wanted DNA testing on those, you'd have to pay for it. Is that right?
No. What they said, it doesn't prove rape.
Doesn't prove anything.
They are. I then offered, if they're telling me they're under-resourced and not got the money, I then offered to pay for those articles to be tested, to prove the case and get it dealt with quicker to prove.
You see, you can see their point. It doesn't prove rape, but it proves someone was there.
Oh, at first, if the reports I've got off the police, they didn't have a clue who they were looking for.
Yes.
And the police even admitted to me that from their images that they've seen, they all look the same. They're all dark and all got hoodies on. So they struggled to identify them.
Right, okay. So on that subject, I've got here a letter from the police to your solicitor, I believe, after you'd complained that they weren't doing enough. So they can assure you that the report has been professionally and expeditiously investigated by officers from the Serious Sexual Offences Unit. 2 suspects have been arrested and released on bail in connection with the offences, and a further 3 have been identified, with extensive efforts being made to arrest them. Identification procedures are pending. So they're saying that 2 have been arrested and 3 have been identified. And then they say there's been no media release at this time due to the early identification of the suspects. So given that there were 7 men involved, but one of them was known anyway, so there were 6 unidentified suspects.
Yes.
So they're saying in this letter that they have 5
Yes.
suspects. So therefore, because they've been identified, they don't need to put out a media release and really push it.
Well, I just think that they obviously never did maths as a subject.
Indeed, it's really quite stunning that. But then they say no media release at this time due to early identification. Again, am I missing something here? Because when they put out a wanted poster, they know who the suspect is. The point about the poster is to get information about the suspect or to tell you where the suspect is. So to me, the idea that there's been no media release because we know who some of them are is a complete nonsense. Have they at any point tried to justify that line of logic to you? And then it goes on, they're also not releasing it to the media because the location of the offence is being inside a hotel. Have they said why? What?
No explanation.
You see, to me, that's all the more reason to go public with it, because a hotel is a public place. There's members of the public coming in and out, and I know they did put the information on their most wanted website, but if you live in the city, you don't go to a hotel in the city as a rule. So the members of the public come from Berkshire.
Yes.
And they're the very ones who need to see on Crime Watch, or something similar, this appalling case. So there's a chance of them saying, yes, I saw 6 men or 5 men or 8 men or whatever. So absolutely astounding that. Then they go on to say the scene of the offence was subject to extensive forensic examination. But you're saying that in fact they said the forensics wouldn't prove anything other than that.
I'm told that they locked down the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm told that the forensics, the CSI unit went in, got various articles for DNA. But up until week 38, not one of those articles had ever been tested for DNA forensics, which I find appalling.
Yes. Now, in terms of them missing evidence, they also talk about some additional work resulting from information about telephone and the internet. What's that going on? What was going on there?
The telephony.
Yeah.
I'm told it's a specialist unit, and basically 2 of the mobile phones that they've taken off 2 of the suspects, then obviously it needs to be unravelled, and a unit deciphers the information on these phones, whether there was any images sent, whether there was any text in, any indication of anything to put them as in what they've done, to see if they've sort of openly been speaking about it to each other. From this incident happening in August, the telephony didn't come back till the end of January, February with the report. Mid-January, I think, the report. That length of time it took for 2 mobile phones to be examined. The time lapse, because they're so busy.
Yes. Quite remarkable. Do you think that it's lack of manpower and a lack of money, or do you just think that they're trying to cover it up or don't really care, or is it a combination?
They've always maintained to me that it's down to lack of resources and money, and basically what was pointed out to me, it's the MPs, because it's how they fund the public sector, and they've had all these cuts, and that's what they've always maintained to me, but that is not my problem.
Yes.
Yet when I spoke to various MPs and commissioners, they're telling me it's not underfunded.
Right, I know.
I'm being passed the buck all the time.
The letter they sent you have over there, what was it they said about how many?
They stipulated on the 23rd of January that since this investigation, they've had 187 new crimes and 99 other inquiries. Again, trying to justify the time span of how they've been dealing with this case.
Yes, okay. I think you get an indication really of how well, it's got to be unfair to say they're not bothered, but how they don't really, they're not really into sorting this, because what you told me about the ID parade when your daughter had to go, you and your daughter went to the police station, I found truly shocking. So she's been gang raped by a group of second generation Somali men, it seems. It's the allegation anyway, I have to say
Yes.
that. And what happened when you got to the police station?
There was no desk sergeant. I buzzed the buzzer. There was 2 people sat in the waiting room. Eventually, when the desk sergeant came to the desk, I could see my daughter behaving odd, stood in the corner looking frightened. I looked round, and the room was, I don't know, 20, 30, 25 black, brown looking people sat in the room.
So were they there to do the ID parade?
No, they were obviously either coming in on bail or reporting a crime, or I've no idea.
Yeah.
But my daughter was very uncomfortable
Of course.
to be stood in a room in a police station surrounded by brown people when she'd just been raped.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah, certainly so. So have you found from all the police the same attitude, or have some been, in your opinion, spot on?
No, every time I phone up, I go onto answer phone. I've got that many phone numbers for them. I've gone through from SSO officers to sergeants to DIs. I've had to get various MPs involved. I've had to speak to the commissioner. I've had to get solicitors. All of this I shouldn't have had to do.
No, sure. So it's from the ID parade and not responding quickly and getting your daughter for the extra DNA test. There's a disregard for the victim, but there's also a disregard for the family.
Yeah, they've treated me as though I'm hindering things, and I've got clearly in some of the reports off the police that they can't deal with me on a daily, weekly basis, and that they feel that they've kept me informed. And it was just like, it's like that lack of concern, that lack of respect, or I can't think of another crime bar murder as severe as this. And if that is the way they've dealt with us, then I'm appalled.
Yes.
It's shocking. There's only one other worse crime, is murder.
Yeah.
And if the police are going to deal with us like this, then they shouldn't have that authority.
No, sure. Just one more thing I'd like to raise on this: that the 2 suspects who were, I've seen a little bit about when the police questioned them. One just went no comment all the time, and the other, according to the police writing to the MP who raised this on your behalf, the report simply says that he denies ever seeing a girl at the hotel. But that's not quite what was actually said, was it?
No, what was told to me on the telephone by the police was that so far the ones that have been arrested was no comment, or what white girl.
That's the thing, what white girl. Have the police at any stage told you about and advised you about the definition of a racist hate crime?
No, never.
They haven't?
Never.
You see, the position here is that under the law of this country since the Macpherson report, people guilty of hate crime, the police have to take it more seriously, and people who are convicted of hate crime face a stiffer penalty. And the definition of a hate crime is something not which the police decide or the court decide, it's what the victim or the victim's family or anyone else who hears about it or sees it at any stage says. So the minute you told me that there was what white girl, that immediately means that in their minds there's a racial angle.
Yes. Which
Which means that certainly to my mind, and I think to the mind of any reasonable person, there's at least a possibility of saying this is a hate crime. They wouldn't have done it to one of their own girls.
No, they wouldn't.
So the police had a duty to tell you that, because apart from anything else, it affects the severity of the sentence for anyone found guilty. But they haven't done that. That, frankly, to me, says that what we're dealing with here isn't just incompetence and under-resourcing. It's also, we've seen it for years, they want to play these crimes down because they're under very strong pressure from the politically correct political establishment not to rock the boat on this issue. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and I don't care if it was the other way around. I'd want action as well. And because if all the police were white and the perpetrators were white, and therefore a black girl wasn't getting justice, I'd be just as appalled. But of course that's not it. So what I'd say there is that, thank you very much for that, Denise. Forget about the ethnicities of the perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, and the victim on this. Let's take the police at their word that all the appalling litany of failures in this case are purely the result of them being undermanned, under-resourced, underfunded. Clearly it's at least partly the case, that's true. So I think that what's needed here is for everyone to talk about this case, to publicise this case, for a campaign about this case, purely on the grounds that this family, other families, victims of one of the most serious crimes possible, are being denied justice because the police don't have the money, because the politicians won't give them the money. And I think that we're going to have to run a campaign on this to get people, regardless of any of the other sensitivities of this case, just to get onto their politicians, their MPs and the media and demand that there's proper funding for the police so that never again to a family who've been put through a rape case are they told, well, you can't have the DNA evidence, it's not going to happen because we can't afford it. Sorry, there's no one to deal with your case at present because we're understaffed. That's got to be put right. If someone scratched your car with a key, fair enough, you've got to wait until after the bank holiday. But in rape, in murder, in these really serious cases, we've got to have the police with the ability to act and act fast and get justice.